Rotten smell of sulphur is pervading the air in Joburg. Not too pleasant, a bit like rotten eggs. Well, let's find out exactly what it means. We're joined by Bobby Peake, Director of the NGO Groundwork, also a member of the Presidential Climate Commission. Bobby, it's a weird whiff that's in the air occasionally, and it's been here for the past few days. Talk to me about where it's coming from and why it's floating over Joburg, and if there's other areas that it's affecting. Bobby, I think you might be muted.
Sorry, Sally. Yes, I'm muted.
No problem. You can start again. Hello.
Good evening. Yeah, good evening to the listeners and yourself, and thanks for having me on. I think, this is not an unusual event. Last year in February, this happened. And partly why this is happening is that the industrial facilities, which includes Sasol and includes Eskom, these facilities are aging and they are not meeting the very lax environmental standards in South Africa. And as a result of that, we are now experiencing this high load of pollution. But we must remember, while Gauteng experiences it every now and then, people that live in the vicinity of these plants in Zamdela, in Sasolburg, in Secunda, and out on the Highveld, this is a daily reality, and that's how they live. And so what we have here is the rotten smell you get is hydrogen sulfide mixed with SO2, and this is being dumped via the high plumes that come out of these stacks from these industries, and they've been dumped on Gauteng. And this, is a known factor, and the Department of Environmental Affairs did an investigation last year, and they know where the problem comes from, but they haven't taken action.
So are they breaking the law by creating these high plumes? You say it's hydrogen sulfide and SO2. So what is that? What are they burning that's creating this? Or is it the process?
So, so what they are burning is coal to be able to, in Sasol's case, make liquid fuel. And, we're burning coal for energy. And we know, and we have shown that the burning of coal in South Africa from Eskom causes more than 10,000 deaths every year. And that is not only because of sulfur, of H2S from Sasol, but also from particulate pollution, from NOxes and from SOxes, from other pollutants. When you combine all those pollution, you then get these deaths every year. So we know where it comes from. Recently, not recently, 2 years ago, we took the department and the president to court to say that they have to take action against the polluters in the Highveld area to ensure that the air that we breathe is healthy. And on the 18th of March, Judge Colas delivered her verdict, and it was very clear that the pollution in the Highveld, and the president and the minister not taking action against the polluters and developing a system to regulate pollution in the area is unconstitutional. And it is really sad that Minister Creasy has decided to appeal that legal finding by Judge Colas.
So what could, is it spread over the whole of Gauteng at the moment? So it's not just here in Joburg, it's various areas. Does it depend on the way the wind is blowing?
Well, weather conditions do have something to do with that, and let us not, deny that. But we must remember that in 2004, community people from Zamdela, community people from the Highveld addressed Parliament, and they said to Parliament, we cannot blame the weather for pollution. What comes out of a chimney stack is pollution, and what produces the pollution is the industry, and what allows that industry to produce that pollution is weak law and the inability of government to take meaningful action against polluters. So government is allowing this.
Yeah.
So we must remember that, yes, the conditions in terms of the weather presently traps that pollution, and it then settles into Gauteng because the wind is blowing into that direction. But what is also important to recognize that people that live next to these facilities on the Highveld, in Sasolburg, and I spent many nights on the Highveld, and I've spent many nights in Zamdele and in Sasolburg, and I have smelt what you are smelling in Gauteng, I have smelt in these areas. And people smell it every evening.
So I mean, in a way, it's just a bit of a reminder to the rest of us of the pollution that is very present in our province. And it is pollution. It's not just a horrible smell. So obviously my next question is how dangerous is it to be smelling this awful smell? It's not just a bad smell, is it?
No, it's not just a bad smell, and that is important to recognize. Imagine lots of the pollution you don't smell, it still has an impact upon you. So, Groundwork, together with the Center for Environmental Rights, EarthLife Africa, the Vukani Environmental Movement, we've all challenged government to say that the pollution that is in the air is killing people, and we've proved this. And as I said, 10,000 people die every year in South Africa because of Eskom's collective combined pollution. And as a result of that, we have to take action. Now, the president today, in his budget speech, you introduced me as being part of the commission.
Yeah.
The president today in the budget speech said that we have to have a just transition. And what the president and what we are meaning by that as the commission is that we have to shift from our fossil fuel economy that serves a particular industrial set and a wealth that is created by a few companies to an economy that serves people and is based on a renewable energy industrialization strategy. That's what we have given to the president. And now we are asking, or I'm asking the president, and we are asking the president as South Africans to act fast. Because if you don't act, the industry is going into decay. And we're going to find these incidents in Gauteng becoming daily, as it has been daily for the many people on the Highveld and in Sasolburg.
Yeah, it's a reminder that fossil fuels are not good for our health, smell awful, and it needs to change, and it needs to change quickly. Bobby, this unpleasant smell settling over Joburg, is it going to be a couple more days and then the wind might change? Very quick answer. Sorry, I've got to close the show.
So I don't think, I personally, the South African Weather Service says it's going to be until Saturday.
Okay.
But what I'm really warning Gauteng is that it's going to come back ever so more often in the future because of these type of poor industrial areas in the south and east of you.
Exactly. It's a very pungent reminder to the whole province that there's a lot of pollution and we must push for change. Thank you very much, Bobby Peake, Director of the NGO Groundwork. So that awful smell, it's air pollution.